Family, welcome to the AfrikanExodus show, but more specifically the segment Black Family Advocacy Network. I am your host, Tani Cherie, here to you with a new video. So I've been doing this separate segment from my channel for basically since I came back onto YouTube. I actually decided though, after this video, I'm going to post all future videos for this particular segment onto a separate channel just for Black Child Advocacy Network. The reason is I don't like mixing up different themes so much. I'd rather one channel be for one theme and another one be for another theme, just to keep the content more, have it gel together better. So I feel like that would be best for this segment. So it will be a separate channel. The link to that channel will be down below. So this will be the last channel for this segment on the AfrikanExodus channel. So with that, I want to talk today about what our needs are inside of the United States of America, what I feel like people who are inside of that regime of a country should be doing, or people, African people should be doing. And we're going to talk about it in light of this story that recently came out. I don't know about you all, but personally, I'm kind of sick of the same old happening in our community. I'm sick of the same politicians coming into our community, the same Democratic Party, the same Republican Party, the same stooges, the media personalities who speak for our people, the same activists who come out and get paid to speak for our people, the same attorneys who come, who are ambulance chasing attorneys, the same institutions that are supposedly trying to reform, to do better by us, the same advocacy organizations and nonprofit organizations that use us in our likeness in order to sell their message and sell what they are doing in order to get more funding. I'm sick of it all, honestly, and I've been sick of it for a long time. It doesn't take long to get sick of it, whether you are in the system or whether you're just on the sidelines watching, because what we see happening today is a repeat of history, literally a repeat. When I realized there was a repeat, that's when it kind of hit different. It's one thing when I thought that my generation was dealing with issues that were unique in itself. We know the Black Lives Matter movement tried to make us think that we were experiencing things that were unique and set apart from history. But then you realize that the same conversations have been happening literally since our people were given freedom in the country. Since the emancipation inside of the United States, we've basically been a part of these conversations about what it means to be a citizen of the United States. Should we integrate? Should we assimilate? Should we go back to Africa? We've been a part of these conversations literally since we were able to be in the conversation. And since that time, we have consistently faced the co-optation of our own unique experiences being expressed through means that were controlled by us. And that's the thing that I'm sick of. I'm sick of the same old liberal mouthpieces, and I have to say liberal because those are the ones who get the most credits in our community. The same liberal mouthpieces who pretend as though they're there for the people, but every single thing that they're doing and everything that they're saying is aligned with who they're working for, with the agenda they're working for, with the corporation that is telling them what they can or cannot say. It's tiring, and frankly, I'm kind of tired of having giving people hope when I don't think there's hope. That's what this video is about. I personally, honestly, truthfully, and that's what I want to be on this channel and on the other channel, truthful. I honestly don't believe that as long as this United States remains intact as a system, I don't believe there's hope for it, period. I just don't, for our people in it. And even for the people who are supposed to be the prize people, the white people, I don't believe that even for them that there is much hope, but certainly not for us. The people who were brought here to be slaves and never to be a part of the system, the people who the system created a system around it so that they benefit from our demise at every single level, whether it's the prison industrial complex, whether it's the education system, whether it's the financial sector. We are literally being sucked dry by this system. The system is doing these things on purpose because it understands that it needs us to survive. Not only does it need African people in the United States, it needs African people outside of the United States. It needs us to survive, because if it were not for the consistent blood sucking that goes on around the world, this empire that exists would not exist. And that's why I always look at people sideways when they say they're proud of being Americans. How could you be proud of something that literally was a creation of bloodshed, of instilling fear around the world? That's what you have. It's not a bunch of people who get along just for the sake of it. These are people who fear what will happen if they do not follow the mandates of the Western hegemonic system. That's nothing to be proud of. You know, the fact that you have so many people starving as a result of so many people being enriched, so many people who are wasteful, so many people who don't care, you know, what happens, you know, to the world. That in itself, it's a very interesting thing to find pride in, on a spiritual level or just on an everyday humanity level. I don't see how it happens, but some people are proud of this nation. Some people will fight for this nation. And if you're one of those people, by all means, you can have it. And you can go down with it when it does go down. So, long opener to say, this video is basically me saying, you know, especially as I'm moving this particular segment to another channel, I'm going to be very focused in my message. It's not a hopeful one. It's not one where, hey guys, we just need to create businesses and then we can rally the public officials and come together. I mean, I believe in a lot of the ideas behind that, but practically, do I think that that is a reality for us? That all we need to do is rally together and put pressure on these politicians? When you understand the system, and I wrote a whole book where I did a whole segment on systems analysis, or did a whole section on systems analysis. Systems analysis, which is absolutely true, means that the system is doing what it was created to do. The voting system in the United States was created to produce an inequitable situation or result. The economic system was created to produce the result that we're seeing. The social welfare system was created to do that. And if there were anyone who goes against the system's purpose, because the system will never turn on its purpose, it will never go against what it was created to do. If there were a person who wanted to create it, the system would get rid of, to change it. This purpose, the system would get rid of it. Whether the person is coming from the inside trying to reform the system, or whether they're agitating from the outside, the system would never self-destruct. And that's what it sees changing of its purpose being, a self-destruction. It will never purposely self-destruct. Instead, it will do whatever it has to do to get rid of those who stand in its way. And that is why consistently, no matter who we've had some amazing people rep our community. I mean, that's one thing that every single time it's Black History Month or whatever, I'm always reminded of, wow, we have had some of the most remarkable activists, leaders, community activists, some of the most unique minds and perspectives, some of the most poignant opinions about us, some geniuses. I mean, I'm just thinking, you could think about your favorite people who have fought for the liberation of our people. We have had some very unique and special people fight our cause. And even with the greatest of the great, the greatest organizers, the greatest orators, the greatest scholars, the greatest of the great, why are we still in the condition that we are in? And I believe it's because the system was not created to change. Now, this is not a video saying the system wasn't created to change, give up, go home, and just live. In fact, I'm saying quite the opposite. I'm saying the system's not created to change. It's not gonna change unless you either change it or it dies its natural death, and that's what I'm gonna talk about later. So either if you are basically wanting to be one of those ones who is going to force the change, you're calling for revolution, and there's no bloodless revolution. And that's your positioning. If you are someone like, I'm not trying to die for this thing, and you know, people have kids, people have families, and I don't think that that's a position that could be necessarily written off as cowersome, particularly if you don't believe in the rate of success against the biggest military industrial complex in the world, possibly the universe. So if you don't believe that this is a fight worth fighting in that type of way, then your other choice is to wait till the system dies out. Now, in either scenario, because I don't think anyone is ready to successfully win a revolution, and I also don't think the system is on the verge of dying within the next, let's say 5 years, 10 years. I don't think we're that close to the system imploding on itself. So what do we do in the meantime? What do we do while we're waiting? What do we do while we are organizing to, again, bring it to an end? Or while we are waiting for it to die its natural death? That's what I'm going to concern myself with in this video. And this could cover a broad range of people on different political spectrums. The central idea, though, is that we understand that the system is not going to change, period. And it's either going to have to be destroyed, or it's going to have to, well, it's going to have to be destroyed, but either it's going to be destroyed through its own becoming, or it's going to become destroyed because the people will destroy it, one or the other. With that being the case, I want to go to an article. So many of you might have seen Joe Biden had another symbolic victory for our people, as he always does. He commemorated Emmett Till's death, because in death, that's when we get the pleasure of getting the attention of presidents, unfortunately. He commemorated Emmett Till's death. This article I want to read just to give you a reminder of the fact that the system has not changed, doesn't intend to change, and will not change. So this is from the New York Times. Biden creates a monument to Emmett Till amid fights over Black history. In 1955, the mother of Emmett Till wrote to President Dwight D. Eisenhower, pleading for justice for her 14-year-old son whose murder galvanized the civil rights movement. In a telegram sent to the White House, she asked that he personally see to it that justice is meted out to all persons involved in the beastly lynching of my son. She never heard back. Here you go. Emmett Till's mother, absolutely tragic story we all know about. I don't have to tell it again. Woman who has been devastated, traumatized beyond anything that I certainly can imagine, especially what she saw as far as her child. This woman goes to look for help because obviously the local jurisdiction was not going to help her in Mississippi. Now, and even in Illinois, they weren't going to help her either. So she goes to the highest authority in the land, President Dwight D. Eisenhower. She writes him a letter and she doesn't hear back. How many of us, maybe who haven't gone through the political processes, maybe we were just news to the process, maybe we just got out of high school, just got out of college, and we've seen an injustice and we wanted to do something about it, so we thought the system works for us because that's what we've been taught in civics class. The system works for you. You have representatives, you have a president, you have all of these people who are there to serve you. This system is for you. And so maybe in your innocence at a time where you had not yet experienced how the government works, you might have thought that those solutions were easy. I remember one of the first issues that I campaigned on, it was a man who was on death row, and I said, this is just wrong. This man was clearly innocent. So I remember doing this whole campaign and trying to get the attention of the governor about this man. And I thought, this campaign was going to work. He's still on death row. He hasn't been sentenced to death, but that's what I thought was going to work. And it didn't do anything. I don't even know if the governor ever got anything from those small efforts. That was my first time realizing that the system is not what we learned in civics class, because civics class gives us this very beautiful idea that you are a part of a system and that the system moves by you and that it works for you, these lies that we're taught. And the reason we're taught these lies is because you have to believe that illusion in order for the system to do what it's really created to do, that is to oppress you. So while you're trying to get the system's attention, hey, look at me, I'm suffering, I'm one of your constituents, you should see what I'm going through. Well, while you're trying to do that, the system's like, oh, okay, look, we're going to do something for you. We're going to work something out for you. Yeah, we're going to do that. Just make sure that you're here for the election. Make sure that you sign up for the election. Make sure that you register to vote. And, oh, we have a march over here. Oh, go to that march. And, oh, by the way, while you're at it, we have a memorial for this horrible police brutality killing that happened. Come over here. Oh, and, you know, so they have us going here, here, and here. And then you go back to, was my initial issue ever taken care of? No, it wasn't. They were allowing you to believe in the lies so that they could do what they're really created to do. That is to continue, for the system to be preserved, for the system to continue to oppress. That's what it was created to do. So the article goes on to say on Tuesday, 68 years later, another president offered her and her son the attention she had sought, because that's what they think will make you happy. Yeah, we're not going to do anything to change the situation, change the injustice system, change the protections for your community. We won't do anything about that, but we will give you that attention. That's all she wanted. She just wanted a reply from the president. She didn't want the president to do anything. At least that's what they think. Just a recognition, just a monument, just a honorable mention. That will be enough to appease those blacks. That's all they need. We're done. So on President Biden, he established a national monument honoring Emmett Till and his mother, Mamie Till Mobley, a fierce advocate for her son who insisted on an open coffin at his funeral so that the country could bear witness to the brutality he suffered. And you really would think that that open coffin would mean something to this country. The country was outraged. The country, many people were sad. Many people were horrified. But what happened? Nothing. The story of many of our people. Think about George Floyd. People were horrified, right? I mean, hey, we got Derek Chauvin in jail, but what actually happened to protect this from happening again? I can't even open my ear anymore to every single time our people are killed by the police, because it's the same thing happening over and over again. And I think we are getting the picture that it's not going to be a law that's going to change this thing. It's not going to be anything that the United States has to offer that will change this thing. The only thing that could change it is what we've always been advocating for, and that is to protect yourself. Now, the monument comes as Mr. Biden has made the case for reckoning with the legacy of racism in America, even as some Republicans try to restrict how Black history is taught. Of course, the question is, how are you reckoning, Joe Biden, with racism in America? Well, the way that they were reckoning with it is by finding trigger points for our people. Finding ways that we feel like, hey, we're not going to be recognized inside of this current system. Finding ways that we are appalled and finding things we are outraged by. The current thing that we're outraged by is this curriculum, the ridiculous curriculum coming out of Florida. Now, obviously, it's ridiculous to try to rewrite history, to try to pretend that slavery was a benefit to African people. We get that. But how easy it is for the Democrats to leech on to our outrage and treat it as if it's going to win them the next election. And as we've seen, this is what they're going to use for us to try to get the next election, saying, hey guys, those Republicans are trying to rewrite history, but we'll write it correctly for you. But the intelligent thing to do would be to ask the question, well, yes, the Republicans are doing, outrageous things with the educational curriculum, trying to wipe out slavery. But what was the education system we had to deal with in the beginning? What were we doing with that education system? Well, the education system as it stood and as it has stood since public education became open for all of our people, since that time, the public education system is critically underfunded, critically in need of resources, critically receiving an inferior education, and then you have a psychological component that you are being taught a curriculum that is not representative of you, one that instills an inferiority complex inside of you. You are being indoctrinated for enslavement inside of the system. So before you get outraged by the education system that is being proposed by Florida, you have to ask the question, was the education system that was being proposed or intact by both Democrats and Republicans? Was that education system really something good for us to begin with? So let's go on a little longer. It says, at the time when there are those who seek to ban books, this is what Joe Biden is saying, and bury history, we're making it clear, crystal clear, While darkness and denialism can hide much, they erase nothing, he said during a ceremony at the White House, which was attended by Vice President Kamala Harris, who is there to be the affirmative action case, as well as members of the Till family. Since Mr. Biden took office, more than 40 states have introduced or passed laws or taken other measures to restrict how issues of race and racism are taught in schools. Christopher D. Benson, the president of the board of the Emmett Till and Mamie Till Mobley Institute, said Mamie Till Mobley was heartbroken at being ignored by President Eisenhower. Her telegram to the president ended with the plea, awaiting a direct reply from you, she read. He said she believed very strongly in the power of government to intervene and bring some sense of justice to this case. Therein lies the problem. I'll repeat it. She believed very strongly in the power of the government to intervene and bring some sense of justice to this case. She really firmly believed that, and was only disappointed once again when the system didn't deliver for her. Now, it goes on to say that during the White House screening of the movie Till in February, Mr. Biden told the crowd that he chose the movie because history matters. He also signed the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act, making lynching a federal hate crime in March 2022. One of the great honors of my career, he said. So we can already see what the Democrats are gearing up to do. They're going to be on a crusade to say that they're going to save history, they're going to save the narratives. But the big thing I want to focus on is the beloved Mamie Till, who really thought that she was going to get something out of a system because she believed that she was a citizen. She believed that she would receive equal protection under the law. She did not get that. Of course, the people who killed Emmett Till got off. Of course, the woman who lied on him, I believe, is still living. So she got off. So the same people who murdered him, they're living scot-free. Did Mississippi become safer for any of our people after Emmett Till? No. So what happened after all of the civil rights marches and all of the pleas, and now we have legislation? What has happened and changed for our people? Nothing. We're still in the same position. We're still in the same fights for our sovereignty, which is what the fight should be about. Now, I want to say that this might sound grim and bleak, depending on how you picture living your life in America. If you picture living your life in America, basically having a white picket fence and having success inside of the career field, having success inside of the capitalist system, being able to leverage economic and educational opportunities, seeing your children become Fortune 500 owners and people who are going to be entrepreneurs, lawyers, doctors, all these wonderful things that you see being your future in this country, then that sounds very bleak to say that nothing's going to change and nothing will change. But if you are someone who is disgusted by a lot of what American capitalism and even American exceptionalism represents, then maybe that's not so bleak when you finally are willing to come to terms with the fact that you're living in a state where basically you're a hostile enemy. Because if you are thinking that your interest in justice is one that should be realized, then the state, which was created to prevent that justice, sees you as an enemy to its purpose. So what is the solution to our state in the United States? Honestly, my belief is that we have to recognize that, number one, it is what it is. And that what it is that we are living inside of a state of war. We're living inside, if you know, like, Western philosophy, the idea of the state of nature. That's when basically you're in a state of war where anything goes and you don't have rights that have to be recognized. We are living in that, and we haven't recognized it, and we're not prepared to deal with it because we haven't positioned ourselves as a people who are living inside of that state. And so a state of war, you can put it as something akin to being a stateless people. And being a stateless people, if you see yourself as stateless, then you will act like you're not going to get something from the state. In fact, not only will you act like you're not going to get something from the state, You will act like you don't want anything to do with the state. Because if you have no rights inside of the United States that they have to recognize, then you'll do everything you can to avoid the system. Instead of sending your children to their colleges and universities, you will pull your children from their colleges and universities. Instead of sending your children to their education system and to their schools, you will pull your children from the schools. Instead of you yourself going into their social services offices and then dealing with hostile caseworkers, many of whom aren't even from your community, instead of going there, you will realize that that is a surveillance system, one that you probably should not be around if you want to maintain your own household and not want white women going in and out of your house. So you'll move very differently depending on how you view yourself, view your rights. Are they to be recognized, or are they always going to be not recognized to the full extent of the law? And anything that is recognized is only done so to the advantage of the system. Sometimes they will allow certain things to give the image of you having achieved some type of personhood, some type of leverage inside of the system for the exact purpose of continuing a narrative. That same narrative is what we spoke about before, that you believe in the system. You go to the system, you ask for things from the system, you believe it represents you, you believe you are a represented person and you have rights. Meanwhile, the system continues to oppress you, not just domestically and globally. So what I want to end off with is, this is a work in progress, and it's certainly not anything that I'm saying has to be looked at as an official statement or anything like that. Frankly, I think I'm going to put this on some type of shared drive just so that we can have it as a reminder for those of us who agree with this message, that we are a stateless people and that we have to recognize we are in hostile territory. We are prisoners of war. If you think about what the transatlantic slave trade was, it was not a act of passivity. It was an act of war, an act of aggression that never stopped. So that means that we're in a state of war. And rather than us talk about the next election, which we're going to obviously see people come out and they're going to be like, hey, government, you still won't give us reparations. Hey, government, we still didn't get a police bill. Hey, government, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Some of us will say, hey, you have to give us tangibles. Others of us will say, oh, we just don't want Trump in office. Others of us will say, we just don't want a Republican. Others of us will say, we just don't want a Democrat. Instead of us going through the same cycle, the same hamster wheel that we've been on since we've been voting, literally. And I literally mean that, by the way. There's a really, really good book, and I will put it up on the screen because I don't remember the name of it, but you realize when you read this book, this stuff has literally been going on for the second we were able to vote. We've been having these same conversations. Please represent me, Democrats. Please represent me, Republicans. Please do what you said you promised. Please, please, please. Oh, okay, yeah, we got you. We got you. We got you. Just for nothing to change and nothing to happen. This goes before even the ballot or the bullet. This goes before Malcolm and Martin. This goes before them. This is the second we were able to vote. We were becoming political chumps, literally. So anyways, let me get to this. This is like I said, it's nothing official. If anything, let it be something that stirs up your imagination. If you want to chime in on this document, I will find some type of way to have a shared drive to it so that you can give your thoughts to it. But essentially, what I call it is a stateless people. I'll read through it. It says, African people in America, or in the white-dominated societies essentially around the world, are a stateless people. We have no rights honored by the Constitution, no representative body to represent our interests, and no economic power base to support ourselves and our businesses so that we do not become dependent on this white supremacist system. We've been made to think and believe we're in a fight for freedom, justice, equality. However, the physical and psychological violence inflicted on us informs us that we are, in fact, in a fight for our lives. We are a stateless people. A stateless people means that we are in a state of war. No call for reparations or enfranchisement will reverse this reality so long as the white supremacist state of the United States remains intact. We are stateless regardless of whether we recognize it or not. We are stateless no matter if we are patriotic or not. We are stateless because after 400 years of enslavement, labor, blood, sweat, and tears, we can effectively state a reality that has been tried, tested, and reviewed. That is that the United States has absolutely no resolve for enslaving and oppressing our people. Let me correct that. The United States has absolutely no regret for enslaving or oppressing our people, nor intention to reverse the wounds of this trauma we bear, and no intention to change the hostile conditions we live under. We recognize that we are in a state of war, and at that one, that we are significantly outnumbered and outpowered. Some seek to bring about a revolution with bloodshed to reverse our condition. Others seek to simply be separate until the supremacist imperialist behemoth meets its own timely end, as stated by Malcolm X. It is impossible for capitalism to survive, primarily because the system of capitalism needs some blood to suck. Capitalism used to be like an eagle, but now it's more like a vulture. It used to be strong enough to go and suck anybody's blood, whether they were strong or not. But now it has become more cowardly, like the vulture, and it can only suck the blood of the helpless. As the nations of the world free themselves, then capitalism has less victims, less to suck, and it becomes weaker and weaker. It's only a matter of time, in my opinion, before it will collapse completely. Whether we intend to wait for this end or to bring it about, living knowing that we are a stateless people and acting in accordance with our reality will be necessary for both our physiological and psychological survival as a people. How we live with the reality of being stateless. Simple. We avoid the state at all costs, be that the penal system, the welfare system, education system. All these systems have long conspired to destroy our people, thus offering ourselves and our children up to this system seems as nonsensical as it does self-destructive and frankly suicidal. This means we strive for and we work to create the following. Preferably collectively in an organized manner. Number one, we educate our children, controlling 100% of what they ingest. Number two, we arm ourselves. Number three, we know the laws, we follow the laws, unless the law seeks to destroy our people. Number four, we grow our own food. Number five, we own land and owe no debt to no financial institutions. Number six, we employ ourselves. Number seven, we control our narratives. Number eight, we control our own health systems. Number nine, we control our own culture. And number 10, we separate from every institution or being seeking to undermine our autonomy. So let me say that again. We separate from every institution or being who seeks to undermine our autonomy. 10 principles that I believe we should live by. Probably not an exhaustive list, probably things that you can add to it, which is why I said if you are a member of the Patreon, I will put this up in a shared drive for commentary and feedback. But the takeaway is that I hope we can realize the reality and the gravity of the situation that we're living under. This is not a situation that is one that we can aspire to, especially whenever these politicians come into our community selling us the same message, yet bringing us no fruit for the things that they're going to tell us. I personally am sick of the hamster wheel. I'm sure you are. So as far as going to this other channel, this is the type of thing that you can specifically expect from this channel. These principles, contradictions as far as what's happening inside of our reality, but also these principles that we need to live by, bringing us and drawing us to those things. So with that, I'm going to bring this to a close. If you have not already subscribed to the Patreon group, if you want to support this work, I would strongly advocate that you consider joining the Patreon group, because that's a way to keep the conversation going. So the link to that is down below. So as I said, last video for this segment on this channel, go ahead and click over on the link if you want to be alerted on the future live streams or future broadcasts for this channel. Thank you all for watching. I will see you on the next video.